La la la. Test, test. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the live recordings of Arc 6. We're starting with chapters 19 and 20. Before I bring on the cast today, I just wanted to let you all know we are opening up our Arc 7 auditions a few days early, so they are launched now. I'm going to leave them in the pinned comments. If you want to audition for Arc 7, you're more than welcome to. Auditions will be open until June 27th, 2025, and this will go
Spoilers, guys. Conflict happens.
Uh-oh. I think you'll be able to hear Wolf talk. It's still 2025. Yep, June 27th. There it is. You guys can go audition either on Casting Call Club or through Google Docs and email. If you have demos, you can send them through email, Casting Call Club, whatever you like. You can watch that video. Everything will be there for you. But without further ado, I'm bringing the team on before Wolf talks again. Alrighty. Alright, everybody, you're live. Thank you, Tilla. Oh, it's Zoc. Thank you, Zoc, for the super chat. I told everybody about the auditions. Does anybody else have any announcements for us? Podcast, we're going to get Arc 9 Phase 2 this Friday. And then we'll be back to our normal schedule now that we're done our hiatus.
Yeah. It's we're going to be experimenting with new smaller formats for as the new chapters get released for Arc 9, because making a whole hour and a half plus podcast for each chapter, kind of difficult at points. So we'll probably have some more short form content for you guys for that stuff.
Oh, pause, Connor. Pause, Connor. Sorry, I didn't pick you up yet. I'm so sorry. That's my bad. Okay, test. Testing. No. I'm sorry.
You've been banished to the Shadow Realm.
I killed him. Not again.
Wait, you got to keep working instead of complaining.
Oy, oy, oy. Sorry, it's been a week. Discord. That's the right one. Alright, it wasn't working last week. Apologies. Test. Now, let's see how it goes.
Testing. Hello, are we back?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yay!
Alright, Connor,
There we go.
what were you
Nice.
saying before?
I was saying there's already a few more Arc 9 chapters for us to read and get caught up on. So like Mickey said in chat, we might try and do a podcast every couple of chapters. It's still probably shorter than our 2 to 3 hour ones covering an entire phase, but just enough that we aren't either spamming it or not giving enough time for it at all. We'll figure it out. We'll see how this first one goes after we come back, and we'll be happy.
Yeah!
It's going to be awesome. We're so excited to keep reading.
Also, the fabled Lost EX1 podcast, we will be doing a remaster very shortly with Kyle's, because we got the physical copy for EX1.
Yay!
So I'm going to force her to read it.
Wahoo! Okay, without further ado, I think that's our announcement. So let's introduce our team that we got here. We're going to start at the top with Al number 1, Stan.
One stand. I'm also the guy trapped in the studio Reverie basement. Help me, please. It's getting so dark
God.
here.
Hello, I'm Connor. I'm one of the hosts of the Studio Reverie ReZero podcast, and I'm your Julius and Rom for these recordings. And I'm the one with the keys to the basement. You aren't getting out, Al.
Why are you all in
I know
our
what you did.
basement?
I'm not in the basement. I have the keys. I'm not letting
No. Oh my gosh. All right, I'm Greenie, one of the editors of Studio Reverie. I'm just here chilling, wanting to analyze what these chapters got for us for this stream.
Hello, I am Carmen, another one of the editors, as well as your lovely Meili for tonight.
Yay. Hello, I'm Kyles McGiles. I'm Amelia, and I'm covering for Anastasia and Shala today.
I am I'm Stearman. I am one of the mods in the community in the Discord server. So I'm just here to observe, maybe throw some jokes around when in between, but nothing too special. So
Woohoo!
Hello, I am Tealdi. I am filling in for Beatrice and also narrating.
Woo!
Yay!
Hello, everyone. I'm Wolf. I am another co-host of the ReZero podcast, and I'm also your Subaru.
Yay!
All right.
So anticlimactic. Sorry. Just leave you hanging there.
Damn,
It's like, you're so hyped. We're like, oh, yeah.
The
so
slow.
Yeah,
I was like,
bro.
I'm excited to be
Yeah,
back,
bro.
and everyone's been busy in the mines. I feel bad. Like, you know, I know we've all got coal in our lungs, guys, but come on, just a bit more effort.
You got it, sir.
Yeah, bro. Okay, man. Okay.
I'm the most
boss.
inspirational four-man on the planet. I'm just saying.
You
Sure,
gotta
buddy.
Pull your Subaru out.
Drop my Chinese.
Yay, look at you. All right, one thing I forgot to mention, one last thing. We started a new goal now that Lustiff is met. Now that our auditions are done, our next thing to do is start writing and setting up for the Lust If video that we are going to record. We set up a new goal. We're trying to fundraise 3,000 for assets for Arc 7 and 8, so artwork, different pieces, just to be able to increase our production moving forward and see what happens. We got a long time for this. We just started Arc 7 auditions, so we're nowhere near ready for that yet. But we thought we'd put something out for you guys in the meantime. Yay!
Yeah, that one's. I mean, as usual, we're going to be super grateful for memberships, super chats, everything. We're also probably going to throw together some additional fun streams as fundraisers almost to keep that going and see if we can get some, well, the 41 new characters some artwork. They won't have anything at that point.
Because they need it.
Yeah,
They
they don't
just-
exist yet.
We had to make up art for 2 of the characters. They just don't have anything. Official, otherwise, light novel, nothing.
Oh, true. Oh my god.
It is true.
It's true.
It is true. No one likes Ismail.
Who?
Who?
Heart goes out.
All right, team. We got chapter 19 open. We got our cast. We got our narrators. Pew, pew, pew.
Fix. There we go. All right. I know I broke it again. Hold on.
Oh, no.
No. It's okay. It's okay. We can adjust and okay, unbroken. We're good.
Yay.
Yay.
All right. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Just about.
All right.
Oh, do you guys need to set up your air sheet? We can wait a second.
Oh.
Welcome in, Oliver, for your first time here with us. Woo! Sorry, I am useless this stream already. Oh my god. I swear it's just been a long week of teaching, even though it's just Wednesday. We just lost a soccer game. We did our best.
Devastating.
Devastating. They
I'm
were
never
like-
going to financially recover from this.
They were practicing
Nope.
on us. It was
Oh, that just hurts.
They were
It
practicing on you guys.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah. It was
We're
great. It's
getting
awesome.
dunked
Yeah.
by children.
Yeah.
Damn,
Damn.
that's rough.
That's rough, buddy.
All right, whenever you're ready, Tealdi, take us away.
Okay. All right. Arc 6, Chapter 19. The Sage's Whereabouts. At the unforeseen fight against heavy odds, spread out were the winds of the aftermath of the battle at the 6th floor of the Pleiades watchtower. An enshrouding cloud of mist, the man and woman grappling with each other were covered in sweat and mud. And, looking at those two with cold eyes, from every other direction,
What's with that look in your eyes? You're saying that I've done something wrong. I've done nothing wrong. I've done nothing wrong.
Subaru, do not try to fool us so much. There are some good sides to him, is what Ram thought, but in the end, Barasu is Barasu.
Those were the comments made by the newly arrived Julius and Ram in regards to Subaru, who had been grabbed by Shaula. Regardless.
We were fortunate to be able to reunite safe and sound. It is also good news that you woke up, but the situation is difficult to comprehend unless you explain it with words.
I would if it was something I could explain. Shit! Let's go!
Nope.
Shaula clinging to Subaru's arms, Julius, whose hand was at the grip of his sword, shrugged his shoulders. He must have perceived that she didn't have any intentions of attacking them. Even Subaru understood that point. But it was true that he was having a hard time trying to get her away.
Don't just watch! Help me get her off! She has goddamn superhuman strength.
Your lips are curving into a smile, Perversu.
They're not! Don't team up with her! Don't take it at face value! Immediate hand! That hurts! I don't think pulling my hair is gonna be much help!
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to help you at all.
You're apologizing for that!
The stubborn Shaula did not let go of Subaru's arm, and Amelia, with a somewhat blank expression, continued pulling Subaru's hair. Aside from that, Beatrice, who had gotten trapped between Subaru's and Shaula's jostling, was turning her eyes in all directions, in a state of being crushed, going,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That was really good, TLD. What's this? Even after all that trouble? Seems it's all been changing into a pretty good mood.
What's Onisan doing after waking up? I don't do well with noises, but I'm glad Onisan's woke up.
Having slowly come down the stairs, Anastasia and Meili had also joined up with them. With this, all except Rem and Patricia, who were supposed to be undergoing treatment, had gathered here. It was all well and good that they had been able to reunite, but at this rate they would not be able to calm down and have a proper conversation.
Any way! Everyone! Calm down! Let's talk!
Overworking his throat after just waking up, Subaru managed to get everyone to follow his lead as he tried to take control of the situation. With that being said, within the group sitting in a circle, Shaula kept latching onto Subaru's right arm, and on his left was Amelia, sitting Seiza style, at a distance enough to make him shiver. And Beatrice was settled on his lap. It would be an extremely extravagant battle formation in the eyes of an outsider.
Repulsive.
Did you even see the disaster a minute ago? Does it look to you that I wanted this to happen to my right side? Oh, my bones hurt real bad. At this rate, my arm's gonna become necrotic.
To Ram, who'd spat those words out, Subaru looked at his constricted right arm. Being hugged by a half-naked girl would be a dreamlike experience for many, but in reality, rather than experiencing the softness of her skin, the flesh of his arm was being squeezed, and the pain of his joints that went to the limits was having a scary effect on his bones and nerves. Frankly speaking, they could have been torn off.
Well then, before my arm gets torn off from its roots, I'd like to proceed with the conversation. But, before that, first of all, everyone, thank goodness you're all right. Though, it is scary that Patricia and Rem are unconfirmed.
You're still being doubtful, I suppose. It's all right, in fact. Everyone is all right, I suppose.
It is just as Beatrice-sama says, though your uneasiness and concern are justified. You can properly visit them afterwards. As you would expect, this time we are all scared to death.
Beatrice and Julius nodded at Subaru, who was delighted at their reunion. Julius, once again, put on a grim expression on his face, as if reflecting upon the moment straight after they had been separated back at the Sand Sea.
Immediately after the space fissured, all of us, except for you, Anastasia, and Miss Rom, fell onto the side beyond the flower garden of the witch beasts, you see. There, after many twists and turns, we arrived at the watchtower and we were able to get shelter.
But Onisan and the others weren't there. And since we knew they couldn't fight, we were worried.
Julius traced Beatrice's earlier explanation, and Maylie agreed as well, pouting. Their uneasiness was only a matter of course as well. Upon falling into the underground area of the Sand Sea, Subaru and the rest had disappeared from outside, which had made them worry. Though that went for both sides.
Onesan really lost her composure. We had a tough time when she snapped at that sage-san, such that when thinking back on it now, it sends shivers down my spine.
Hey, Maylie, you don't have to say all that.
At Maylie's flirtatious glance, unsuitable for her age, Emilia objected, her face going red. Her comments were no exaggeration. That could be easily understood by looking at Emilia, who was blushing all the way up to her ears. Though imprudent, he was genuinely happy to see her worry for him.
I see! So Amelia-tan was worried. It looks like Beheko was worried to the point of crying her eyes out as well. I am such a lucky guy!
Jeez. Subaru joking about that again? Also, Beatrice wouldn't have cried her eyes out. Just around half of that. Yeah, that's right.
If you want to look out for others, then do it properly until the very end, in fact, you natural airhead!
Huh?
With the truth that she'd been driven to tears exposed, Beatrice pouted while Emilia remained clueless. Loosening his cheeks at that pleasant exchange, Subaru looked up at Julius.
If that's so, then you must have gotten a pretty worry too, right? It's unfortunate I couldn't see that expression of yours.
Of course, I was greatly agitated. Regardless of you, because of Anastasia-sama and Miss Rom. It would be regretful to lose the two frail ladies somewhere beyond reach. Without showing you all my form of having a pale face and walking about in worry, currently I am only experiencing relief in my fragile spirit.
Why did you make a conversation about you getting scared so graceful?
Subaru twisted his lips at Julius, who was touching his bangs as if out of habit, with a bittersweet smile on his face. Without him putting up a strong front, and without even showing a weak side of his, it was an absolutely boring result. With that, Maylie started laughing lightly at the exchange of the two. When they questioned her by merely gesturing through their eyes, she placed her braided hair against her mouth and...
Oh, it's nothing.
And she deceived them with a smile which seemingly held deep meaning.
Well, from this, I get that everyone who got separated was worried for us. Oh, nobody is missing in the end. So, it's something which we can look back on and smile now.
Only Barasu can be so boldly shameless. Even now, Rom's petite figure and soft heart is about to break apart with uneasiness and fear just by thinking about it.
Is the Nae-sama who, among all the people I know, the one which seems to have the toughest heart, saying something?
In truth, amongst all of Subaru's acquaintances, Rom was the one who wielded the utmost mental strength. Her remarks seemed to be a silly joke, as if a matter of course, but he ended up intently looking at Ram's face, who was sitting right in front of him. White skin with light crimson eyes, and, of course, well-ordered facial features, along with refreshing beauty. Beautiful facial features like a suspicious berry found in the valley of sweetness and elegance. No matter how he looked at her, she was the same Ram as always.
Put an end to that unpleasant gaze. Looking so intently. What do you want?
Well, I was just thinking that you're really Ram.
This is totally hopeless now, isn't it?
Stop making judgments without any proper subjects! Not that, I mean...
replied in a flummoxed manner back at Ram, who'd cut off and cast aside Subaru's words. The incident that had occurred just before he had lost his consciousness in the underground area came up in his mind. Ram had protected Subaru with her injured body by standing in front of the centaur. Her delicate figure seen from the back, which had been peppered with wounds, had faced that formidable enemy without any prospects of victory. Back then, he had felt the terror of losing her, seeing her figure that showed no fear of being wounded. And now, both of them had made it back alive safely. He had realized that fact by talking with the usually fearless her.
Sure enough, there's still this sense of distance between us. It did get strangely loathsome and worse, but when I think back on it, that too was... No, that still shouldn't be a good memory to reflect back on.
I do not understand what you are trying to grumble out. Spit it all out like a man.
I'm glad we're both safe is what I mean. Plus, I'm also glad you protected and saved me at the end there.
That was a waste of time.
How can you say that?!
Even though he had honestly expressed his gratitude, it meant absolutely zilch to her. Following that, Amelia let out a stifled giggle seeing Subaru get miffed like that.
It's okay, Subaru. It's just because Ram's a little embarrassed.
Summer's embarrassed? Wouldn't the heavens and earths switching places be more believable?
Not really. Perhaps it's because you kept hugging Ram until she woke up, so she's kinda embarrassed. Even when separated, it was rough.
Amelia-sama!
Amelia secretly whispered that into his ear, but Ram reacted angrily to her words. She raised her eyes unusually in anger, as if she'd read Amelia's lips or something.
I think it would be better that you do not judge things using your own criteria, because I do not think I want to work for a dunderhead who does not understand people's feelings.
When you say dunderhead, you aren't referring to me, right?
I am not. Amelia-sama, you do properly think about people's feelings. If there is anyone who has got nothing to do with being a dunderhead, it would be you. It would be so ridiculous of me to say anything otherwise.
I see. Wait up. Let me think for a bit.
Amelia began to brood in earnest thought at what Ram had said, whose words had been plastered with great sarcasm. Meanwhile, Ram glared at Subaru with a glint in her eye as sharp as a blade, and then stirred her lips into speech, saying, "Forget this." Subaru reflexively nodded at her threatening attitude. When he had woken up, he remembered that there had been the traces of someone who had been lying on the bed together with him. He had thought for sure it had been Beatrice, but it seemed like, according to what she had said now,
I've forgotten it! I've forgotten it! I said I've forgotten it!
Good. You are not a dunderhead. Amelia-sama, let us leave it at that.
Has it come to Ram gradually becoming more outspoken about me?
Amelia looked at her with reproach, but Ram turned her aside with a look of feigned ignorance. In any case, Subaru turned his eyes away from Ram, who seemed like she did not wish to touch on the subject anymore, and looked towards the last of his companions, at Anastasia. She sat beside Julius, fiddling with her pompons that adorned her hat as usual. But upon noticing Subaru's gaze, she gave him a graceful smile.
Ah, so you're done talking, Natsuki-kun? I thought you'd forgotten about me.
I hope you can forgive me for my ego in prioritizing my own. I'm glad that you're safe too. Speaking of, the last battle in the underground area, I haven't got a clue about what happened after.
Are you gonna make me remember those scary thoughts? Where I too was thrown down in that pitch black darkness? Natsuki-kun, Ramsan, and Padre Seichan were fighting their damnedest, so the witch beast was ignoring me. I wasn't of any use there, but I was going to be the use for negotiations.
Negotiations?
With the Sage-san who helped us, you know?
Anastasia pointed at Shaula, who was still nestling her face against Subaru's right arm. When he heard about negotiations with this, Subaru frowned, but Anastasia gave him a wry smile.
No. We're also quite confused, 'cause she wouldn't answer anything till only a few minutes ago, regarding of me pushing and pulling with her. But with ya, Natsuki-kun, she's madly in love.
She wouldn't speak to you. This thing.
It's not this thing. It's Shala, Master.
Shut up.
Subaru responded dejectedly at Shala getting miffed, and Anastasia shrugged her shoulders. Certainly, looking only at the situation, she had barely said a single word to Anastasia and the rest. However, she'd been nattering away at Subaru. So, in reality, just about everything of this situation was unexpected.
When someone suddenly nestles over to you with 100 favorability, even if they happen to be a beautiful woman, this one's favorability is 0, so it isn't something worth me getting perplexed over.
Just now? Did you say that I'm a beautiful woman?
You sure have sharp ears when it suits you. Hey!
Once again, Subaru tried to push Shala's head off with his empty left hand. However, the more he struggled to do that, the more Shala's strength increased, eventually leading to Subaru to give in. In the end, the out-of-breath Subaru shook his head, saying, "It can't be helped," with Shala still clinging to his right arm.
For now, let's put all these trivial matters and talk about what we should be talking about. I don't want us to keep going around and around in circles with a lack of explanation. I want to tell you to tell us about various things.
Sure thing. If it's something Master has to say, then let's hop to it.
Indeed, your collaboration is a great help. So, I wish to ask about this. You are the sage who retired to this Pleiades watchtower. Is my understanding correct?
Whoosh.
Answer him! Didn't you just say you talk?
Contrast to her friendly smile, Shala turned her face away sharply from Julius's question. Straight after, Subaru got pissed off at her poor attitude. Shala turned her pouting face towards him.
My. What happened, Master? Master, didn't you hammer it into me not to speak or say anything unnecessary to anyone, no matter what they ask? I'm just loyally abiding by what you told me. I can't believe you're angry. I'm gonna file a case against you.
Your master is absolutely awful!
Yeah, Master's such an awful person. I should demand an apology from him, and for him to deeply reflect on himself.
So, calling people master as you please is just... Huh? Emilia-tan, what's with those eyes?
Emilia had narrowed her round eyes at Subaru and Shala's strange spiel. Subaru braced himself in case it was another inexplicable outburst. But Emilia continued by saying,
Well, it may not really be that big of a deal, but how can I explain it? It's the way you both talk is quite similar.
Does it look like I'm talking with such a chaffish tone?
That's not what I mean. The expressions you both use is what I meant. You see, you always joke about, even during serious conversations, right? And that's the feeling I'm getting.
You think of me like that?
Subaru was horrified by that completely unexpected evaluation of hers, but Emilia paid him no heed. On the contrary.
Surely, now that you mention it... Barasu's typical conversation ability? There's trouble lying in wait ahead then.
But I really like Oni-san's way of talking.
No, everyone's got some manner that sits heavy in your stomach. Don't you think?
Subaru's mouth gaped wide open as everyone appended their own evaluations on top of each other. However, a little girl furiously lost her temper in Subaru's stead. And that girl was Beatrice.
Billy, don't go saying just whatever you feel like, I suppose. Not only are you acting way too familiar with Subaru, you're also acting far too clingy ever since a while ago, in fact. How hard do you think this is for Betty, despite taking Subaru's hand, I suppose? It's unfair, in fact.
The topic had changed quite a bit midway, but Beatrice had a gleeful disposition to her. However, Shala turned Beatrice's protests aside, with a look on her face that a beautiful girl should not be making. Beatrice's already lacking amount of patience reached its limit when she saw Shala's complete lack of concern completely expressed on her face. However, before that, Subaru's karate chop hit Shala square on her forehead.
That's enough!
Ow! Though it doesn't actually hurt. Isn't that abuse? It's abuse. Master used violence against me! I'll be seeing you in court.
Pipe down! You can speak with other people properly from now on, or this talk will go nowhere!
Would that be okay?
Yes, it would! Oh, rather, I recommend it! It's high time you start speaking seriously!
Shala's face turned to one of complete surprise towards the frowning Subaru's complaints. And then, little by little, her facial expression changed. First surprise, then comprehension, then assent, and finally deep gratitude. Then she said,
Yippee! Yay! I got permission to talk! Now I don't have to play the act of deeply mysterious femme fatale anymore. Hip, hip, hooray!
Now not even a fragment of that factor is left behind!
her face was lit up in a deep smile. If she had a tail, she'd probably be wagging it around in full swing. Though, as a matter of fact, Shala's ponytail was swinging about in delight as she still held on tightly onto his arm, with her ponytail smacking against his forehead, his cheeks, and God knew what else repeatedly.
So, it's okay to say that you're the sage from the rumors, right?
The racket had died down for a bit, and finally, they truly reached the discourse that they should have undertaken before said racket. Shala, who had let go of Subaru's right arm, was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the group, now sitting in a circle surrounding her. Incidentally, his right arm had become numb, and he couldn't raise it, nor would it move.
Answer me. You're the sage, right?
That answer is... The answer to that question is difficult.
Greeted with silence to his question, Subaru had once again repeated the same query. Following that, Shala replied vaguely, putting on a sour expression as if she'd ate a pickled plum. Subaru frowned on receiving that answer, revealing his bewilderment. However, it was Amelia who raised her hand, in place of him. She spoke out, prefacing her words with,
In which case, setting aside whether you're the sage, the one they say guarded the sand dunes all this time from inside the tower, that would be you, right? Ah, that's me, for sure! For 400 years, every single day, forever and ever! Guarding the myths in the sand, and each barren day I'd send would be something that would make one both... Oh my god, sorry. I've spent would be something that would make both one reciting and one hearing it cry. Poor thing.
Amelia Tan, don't get affected by it. And you as well. Don't go exchanging unnecessary feelings.
The empathetic Amelia's eyes teared over at Shala, who gave her response as she shook her fist. As he calmed Amelia down, Subaru, based off Shala's current answer, crossed gazes with Julius. Julius gave a nod at that exchange of looks and took charge of the conversation, speaking out a...
I was muted, sorry. Would I be right in recognizing you as having borne the burden of working as a sage for 400 years, as is typically well known, Shala-sama?
You're making me blush. Attaching stuff like Sama? I'm not used to it. So you're gonna address me without using honorifics like normal. Using Shala-sama?
Then I shall correct myself. Surely the one that is typically known as the Sage is you, Shala.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. Even if that's what's typically said, I don't ever leave the tower, so I don't know anything about the rumors from outside. It feels unexpectedly strange, doesn't it? Like I'm being called a sage.
Shala's facial expression, which had been completely at ease, completely changed to one tinged in thoughtfulness, and the atmosphere did too. Julius also narrowed his eyes, facing the depth of her gaze, which seemed like it was searching for something. Her current remark was not the kind which could be ignored, even by those other than Julius. Because if Shala's words were the truth,
If you are not the Sage, then it would turn out that the legend of the Sage Shala is completely an incorrect rumor? Or is it saying that there is a Shala other than you who is considered to be a Sage?
The sage Shala from those rumors is someone I'm not aware of. But as far as I know, there's no acquaintance of mine named Shala other than me. I was given the name from Master as well, so Master must have given it to me. But
Shala's gaze had fleetingly turned towards Subaru, but Subaru had never named anyone Shala in the first place. Nothing nor nobody. However, it was a fact that there was a certain ring to the name Shala. Shala, too, was the name of a star. It was the star name that formed Scorpius, and its meaning was the stinger. Naturally, his thoughts extended to the true identity of the white rays of light which had been fired from the watchtower. However, when it came to getting that information out of her, he wouldn't mind postponing it until later. Right now, what had to take priority was a different issue.
since Master seems like he has no clue, Shala is just my name, of course. Master gave that name to just me. There's no need for any other Shalas.
I see. You seem to be really fond of that master. Must have been a sinful guy, huh?
Quit looking at me when saying that. Those are false accusations. Innocence presumed.
Guilty as proven. That is what Rom thinks.
Don't you take pride in being a lawful nation?
Aside the interruption, he could not catch any glimpses of there being a lie in what Shala was saying. If that was the case, then was she different to the one from the legends? Suddenly, Anastasia started to rummage through her chest pocket, without any consideration for the individuals conversing with each other. Then, lo and behold, she pulled some coins out from her purse for some reason.
Don't tell me. You're suddenly counting your money?
Even though it's my hobby, and feeling my change makes me work better when I'm deep in thought, that ain't my intention. Here you go. You'll get what I mean when you look at the coins of the kingdom properly.
Saying that, Anastasia tossed the coins on her palm over at the befuddled Subaru. He hurriedly caught them. Which he'd flung his way were 4 coins: a copper coin, a silver coin, a gold coin, and a holy gold coin. There was probably no way that it could be something like a bribe for Shala, or an alternative of a tip. Making sure to check the coins as she had told him to, Subaru noticed the designs engraved into them. He really had not taken a good look at their money up until now, but
So, it's common just about everywhere to engrave pictures and designs on money. How strange.
I don't see what's strange about it. We've got to know where the money comes from. Besides, it's 'cause money always comes with history of its country. That's why stuff that's intrinsic to the country's history is engraved on it.
turned his attention to the engravings on the coins whilst he listened to Anastasia's explanation. And upon looking closely, yes, the coins each had different engraved designs.
Holy gold coins have the divine dragon. Gold coins have the first generation sword saint. Silver coins have the sage. And the copper coins have Lagunica's royal castle on them. Didn't you know?
Emiliatan is speaking like a super loaded character of what she's saying.
Or more so, It's obvious stuff, I'd say. Were you so unaware when shopping that you never looked at the money properly?
Subaru whistled innocently, covering his tracks at Amelia's painful inquiry. And as he did that, he checked, afterward seeing that the engravings on the money were exactly as she had seemed to explain them. A dragon was engraved on the holy gold coin. A man with a sharp look was engraved on the gold coin. The royal castle was engraved on the copper coin. And finally, engraved on the silver coin was a
Young, handsome Oni-san, I guess. He doesn't bear any of the slightest resemblance to Shorla.
But the guy on this drawing is what appears as Shala to the world, in fact.
A handsome man with long hair and intrepid features was carved there on the coin. Naturally, even if he were to try and change the angle of it, it seemed unlikely that they'd be mistaken as a half-naked hottie of a woman. Shala herself was pestering him with a, "Let me see!" So he handed the coin over to her. When he did so, she gazed at the silver coin up close and spoke.
Eh? Rather well made, huh? It looks exactly like Master.
Where are you seeing that? No. If the sage that's engraved there is your master, then what do you mean by me resembling the master inside your memories?
Jeez, what are you talking about? My master is the only master.
So, let me restate myself once again. Where are you seeing that?
He cleared his throat and shouted at the top of his lungs at Shala, who was comparing him with the design etched upon the silver coin. Even if they differed in hairdo, their expression, and, in the first place, even their race seemed to be different. The thing they matched in was their gender, it seemed. Were he to judge it only by the category of having a good-looking face, then Julius would be much closer to it than Subaru was. However, Shala looked at him with dissatisfaction, going, at Subaru's opinion.
Looks fairly accurate from what I can see. You have eyes. You have hair, 2 eyes, 2 ears, and a nose and a mouth.
That sort of level? Are you complimenting it like a preschooler's portrait?
I guess that I too still don't think that Subaru and the sage resemble each other.
Though Shala had grown sulky, Subaru's verdict, and of course, Amelia's outed it. Their verdicts were reasonable. However, Shala still didn't look convinced.
It's because I'm not very good at comparing people's faces. Men and women are just about as different, but stuff other than that are about the same. After that, I'd come down to size, wouldn't it?
She looked at Betty right now and came out with that. I suppose, this woman.
It's okay, since Bearco being cute and small is unique. Putting that aside, you have such a sense of telling beauty, and yet you call me, out of all people, your master. You're mistaking me completely for someone else!
Advantage of Shala's excuse, Subaru shook off some of the dishonor he had accrued so far from the false accusations. It had been a ridiculous suggestion in the first place. Of course, he didn't even need to consider it. Subaru had nothing in common with Shala, and that was a relief. Or so he thought, but Shala shook her head at that and said,
Me having found Master wasn't a question about appearance, so there's no issue with that.
Not about appearance, you say? Then how did you find out? By aura?
Smell. Well, no. I mean, I can't think of anyone except Master who'd let out such a dark, pungent smell, to the point that my nose seems to scrunch up, hang off of them.
Honestly, that's the first time I've had my feelings hurt like that! What? Am I that bad?
When that keyword smell came out, Subaru had readied himself up for just a moment. However, his readiness was shattered in one blow by Shala's choice of words straight after. Shala had a mystified look to her set towards Subaru, whose face had turned red at her unexpected evaluation.
Why did you get mad? Is it because I said pungent? It's fine. Master smell isn't really bad. But it's a type of smell I want to keep smelling and smelling. It's that of unusual cooking variety, not the sort that makes you spew, so it's cool.
Girls don't say spew, and it's cool together. You didn't need to follow it up after that.
Subaru covered his face with his palm, about to break down crying on the spot, feeling rather ashamed.
I thought I'd just gotten about used to people saying that. But being humiliated like this is far too much. What did I ever do to you?
It's okay, Subaru. I perfectly understand. So, shall we bathe properly afterwards?
Perfectly understand it, my arse!
The anguish dented Subaru had become useless. Beatrice let out a sigh as she looked at Amelia consoling him from the side. And then she grabbed a hold of Subaru's underarm and leaned her weight on his back.
I understand the reason why you mistook Subaru as a complete stranger, I suppose.
I haven't mistaken him. You sure are impertinent for a little ankle biter, aren't ya?
Sorry, but that little ankle biter is your precious master, in fact. Oops, you mistook him for someone else. So he isn't actually your master or anything, I suppose. Pardon me, in fact.
Silently, sparks from their gazes flew up between Beatrice and Shala. The subject of their talk had ended up completely scattered all over the place. But even if they tried to get back on track, the people there who would put the conversation back on course were too few. Given the situation, the face of common sense would get the short end of that stick.
Beatrice-sama, let's leave the strife until after we are done. After our important discussion, you'll be free to decide who owns Barasu.
Subaru isn't owned by anyone, I suppose. That is the point, in fact.
Yes.
Ram let herself take in Beatrice's anger whilst her eyes filled with shock. And after she replied, Ram narrowed her eyes and called out to Shala, who was still looking at Beatrice with a thorny look in her eyes.
In any case, if you could speak to us, then that would be a godsend. Up until now, you could not go along without having a serious conversation with us, but don't you think now would be okay to do so?
I have Master's permission. So that would be Yoshi. Saying that, though, even I am not so nice to answer absolutely everything. Or rather, I should say I don't know that much stuff.
Merely that answer makes it clear to me that you being called the Sage is a mistake.
Proudly puffing out her ample chest, Shala unabashedly declared her ignorance all the more. Ram puffed out her small chest as if she were rivaling Shala's. She snorted her nose, showing an air of superiority more than anyone else here.
You are Shala, but not the Sage. Then I wonder, do Sword Saints and Divine Dragon ring a bell?
Sword Saint and Divine Dragon?
Their names are Reed and Volcanica.
Ew!
Shala stuck out her tongue at Ram's question, her face looking like she chewed something sour. It was easy enough to understand from her response that both those names were familiar. When Ram silently urged that knowledge out of her, Shala rocked her body from left to right, still sat cross-legged, and said,
I know them. The Stick Swinger Ride and the Cynic Volcanica are old friends of mine. I haven't at all seen them since we parted, but they must be doing great, right?
One of them, Reed, is dead. Since a long time ago.
Seriously? He's dead? Even though he was a guy who was nigh unkillable? How did he die? Did he eat something strange?
His lifespan. No one can go against the decree of the heavens above.
Oh, lifespan. Ah, I see. That's right. Reed was a human being, wasn't he?
Been told about the death of her acquaintance, Shala had cast her eyes down with a solemn attitude to her. She seemed somewhat sad, having dropped her shoulders, drooping down in dejection all over all the way to her ponytail. Regardless of what she had been saying and behaving up until now, Her figure mourning her friend's death was neutrally a sad thing. Whilst he finally regained his footing, Subaru too felt something panging inside his chest when he looked at Shala's face from the side.
So, Volcanica's doing well?
Because they're a dragon.
Ah, a dragon, huh? That would have been better if Volcanica had died rather than Reed.
Those words seem to be way too much. Hey!
Shown only a mere touch of sadness, Shala quickly went back to herself. Her face had gone clear as she bitterly spoke out about her other acquaintance. To that, Ram closed one of her eyes in thought and said,
You remember Reed and Volcanica? In that case, you should know your master's name, right?
Subaru and the others all held their breaths on hearing Ram's question. Only the question Shala's face remained blank, replying with an obviously. Ram's question was indeed quite effective at unraveling the mystery of the sage. The sage equal Shala system had collapsed now, so if there was someone who had accomplished the deeds required to be called a sage other than her, naturally, they would need to meet that individual. Shala had mistaken Subaru as that individual for some reason, but a name probably was not something which could be falsified. Subaru prayed for a miracle where a sage bearing the name of Natsuki Subaru would not come out of her here. And his prayer would be fulfilled, in a strange way which he could not possibly have imagined.
It's weird that Master's name is on your mind, considering he's right there. And I thought all of you were Master's companions. You don't know it?
I apologize, but your master hit his head on the toilet bowl and forgot about a bunch of stuff.
Is there a meaning behind having restricted it to toilets?
Master, you did it again?
Again?!
Shala looking at him sympathetically, Subaru tasted humiliation which he shouldn't have received. However, she hopped up as if she had understood that reply and said,
Then you'll hear it from me. Master's name. That's right. Even that name is in Frame's Great Sage. Certainly being called something like a sage is only befitting of Master.
Get to the point!
You're so impatient. But that too is like Master.
She gave off a gaudy gesture which contained irritation, but she stuck her tongue out with a pouty face at Subaru's demand. And then she placed her finger on her cheek and said with an awfully childish gesture,
Flugel.
Huh?
Master's name is Flugel. The Great Sage Flugel. Shala's master.
Shala's whole face lit up into a smile, and she delightfully puffed out her chest the moment she spoke those words. There was no shadow of a doubt that Shala was putting deep love, gratitude, and pure respect into that, and held reverence and affection towards Flugel. However, Subaru and the others' reactions varied in respect to that name. At any rate, he knew that name.
Isn't that the name of the person who planted the tree?
Saying that, Subaru craned his neck at hearing the name of that historical figure whose fates had crossed only once before.
Yay!
Yay!
Woo!
Good job, good job.
Woohoo!
I'm so sorry I laughed partway through that one.
It's okay. The
See,
was a bit unexpected.
it was so good.
Funny.
It actually...
Funny.
I normally can handle that shit, but I don't know. It was a mix of cute and so unexpected.
I was having sneezing fits throughout the entire chapter and had to keep muting.
Oh,
My
no!
bad. I'm missing that.
Oh.
Are you okay?
Yeah, just something's in my throat.
Oh no.
I had to stop myself laughing out loud so many times. I forgot how funny this chapter is. It's absolutely hilarious. Shawla is so funny.
Genuinely,
This chapter-
Kyle, you playing her makes her tolerable.
Tolerable. Okay.
Yay! Thank you. I hope I'm getting her
Quit!
right.
You were doing like genuinely amazing.
Yeah.
Perfect casting.
Thank you, thank you. It was very fun being something so different and then going into Amelia, who's just like, I'll take care of you. It's okay.
Stop holding onto his arm, please.
Get off my man, bitch!
Don't worry, Subaru. We can bathe together.
Your man, I suppose.
Really funny. Because around the end of the like total read, I switched back from like being muted or like deafened on Discord to like get back into the call because I'm listening to the actual stream for the error sheets. And I deafen and I undeafen back, and I get blasted in my ears at like 80 volume. Shala screaming.
Oh no.
It was just holy shit! Oh my ears!
Welcome back to the call,
The
bitch.
biggest Shala mic peak ever. Oh.
Also, thank you for the $5 Ukrainian agent, and welcome to the stream. Glad we can help you through Arc 6. Hope you're having a fun time with it.
Yes, and thank you, Average, so much for the 5 gifted memberships. Thank you. That's your brother.
Those are all going towards our Arc 7 and 8 asset fund now. Something that we are much more excited about getting than the Lustive
Than the last.
funds. But that is on its way, don't you worry.
What do you mean
Your
you're not excited
contributions.
about that?
I'm kidding.
What do you mean? Get back to work!
Get back in the
I
basement
said-
and work on the last diff!
I said
be with me
more
in the basement.
excited.
I'm sorry. I'll go now.
No, stay. We need you.
We need free labor. We can't afford to pay.
Oh my god.
Could we afford Tape?
Ayo.
Bro, I
Do
don't
you
think
think
anyone
it
would
would
do
be
that.
expensive?
For
I
what
don't know.
exactly? What service are you procuring from this man?
Fan fiction.
Oh.
Right what we want.
Hmm.
Hi, sir. Can you please rewrite what you already wrote that you got rid of because you were embarrassed?
Yeah,
Thanks.
in horribly broken Google Translate.
hmm
Huh.
I will be.
I noticed that
Hmm.
too, Chill, that Flugel is mentioned to have had amnesia in this chapter. I completely forgot that.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was I remember
My
that
toilet.
Like, that's the one thing I remember from this chapter.
My
All I
toilet.
remember is that he hit a toilet. or
I also-
something.
Toilet-nesia.
Yeah.
I also completely forgot how different he looks to Subaru. Him also like just being like a different race entirely. That was just like
Yeah, the
completely skipped
different
my
race
mind.
was-
So the
It
name
is a s-
Oh.
But just on the coin. And that could be, you could be different.
Artistic
Mhm.
interpretation.
yeah, it's,
Yeah.
Or
it's
just
so,
wrong.
Yeah.
yeah, it's so strange. I mean, that could be like I know it seems silly, but a very small thing Pandora could change. I don't know. I don't know why she would though. That's the thing.
Well,
Or
they've had
or
the
Flugel
sage's
just,
name
you know-
wrong for 400
So the
years.
face
There's nothing to say
details
that they've
could be
gotten
wrong.
his
Just
face
like-
wrong either.
they could have
Yeah.
gotten like a local Lagoonican as like a
You look like
a version to be like, yeah, this is what he looks like, definitely.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, close enough.
Like-
No.
Flugel already made the whole like thing to be Shala probably. Like the sage is actually Shala. So I would not be surprised if when he was getting his his face engraved on coins, he was like, yo, engraver, make me white.
Or just, well, he seems to have forgotten who he is. So you're the only other person we know that has black hair. You probably have similar features. Let's do you. And then that's
Yep. I mean,
Yeah. Actually some Valachian emperor guy or something.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
it's just in combination with the German name for wing, it's just like I like some of those details I completely forgot about. I like they just slipped my mind. It's really interesting to think about.
Can you imagine if,
Tree guy.
because it's a German name and like everyone else here speaks Japanese, there's not a lot of times that Germany and Japan coincide and cross over with each other. If he's a bit older,
Oh no.
Oh
When
no
did
no
he
no
come
no no
from?
Wait.
is that why everyone thinks like Flugel is an awful person? Like Shaw was
Oh
saying,
god,
like, oh, he's the worst.
no.
Oh no.
Oh my god, no.
No. Whoa, wait.
Surely not.
Time out.
It always goes back to World War II, baby.
Oh, man.
It all began at World War II. Imagine how weird that would be trying to explain ReZero lore to someone. It's just like, okay, for this we're gonna have to go back to all the way back to World War II. What? You mean like there's world wars in the ReZero world? No.
No. Take a step back there.
Real world World War II, but there's cultural
real world
stuff,
World
and
War
you have
II.
to understand that to understand this. So, history lesson time.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Specifically, this correspondence.
Guys, did you also know that Al is a Vietnam veteran?
Oh.
He lost his arm in the war.
The frag grenade took it out.
Yeah, that's also why he doesn't show his face. He got frag grenaded in the face, and so it's, scarred.
Lieutenant Al, you ain't got no arm.
Oh no, Lieutenant.
Nah, he lost his
Oh,
arm,
no.
so they sent him to Cambodia, and that's where he lost his face.
No.
Rip.
Poor guy.
Man, just can't catch a
Super's
break.
just the only normal guy
can't
they've
catch
gotten.
on.
Rip bozo.
Yeah.
Like, Satel's pulling in people just trying to, get a lucky draw. It's like, please be a normal person. Oh, please be a normal person. Oh, war veteran.
Dang it. This gotcha machine sucks.
Yeah.
All right, fine. We're just gonna go with the most boring basic person who's. He can't have done anything wrong. He's just gonna be someone who stayed in his room all day. That's the only way we're gonna be safe. That's how
Oh
you get
no,
Super.
he's really depressed. Ah!
Yeah.
And he's dead in less than 12
whatever.
hours.
Oh well,
It's like,
that's a new
all right,
record.
let's see what this guy's got. And he's fucking dead. Okay.
At this point,
Give
it's
him
the
another
sunk cost
shot.
fallacy. I can't keep pulling them.
Does
Mhm.
that mean
I
that
can't
the
wait
child
another
will never
400
go to
years.
college. The
Does that mean
account
to
is
tell us
dry.
actually the CIA? Is this where we're going?
I was gonna say an army recruiter, but sure.
Yeah. And then, she army recruits Subaru in so that the witches can run horse bets on how long Subaru can go.
Oh. Oh, that's why Echidna wanted to partner with him, just so she could make the
Exactly.
bets on
Yeah, it makes
all right,
sense.
2 minutes this time, 6 minutes next time, followed by 3 days.
30 seconds. Do I hear 30 seconds?
Guys, I'm calling it Subaru's going to die in 6 hours. Subaru, you have to kill yourself in 6 hours.
Whispers.
Subaru,
in
bet you-
Lizzie's ears.
I bet you're regretting not telling Petra what the weather was this morning. You should go and end yourself and go and restart.
So, try again.
Who are the bookies for this betting? That's the real question.
Puck.
Probably Minerva.
Oh yeah, Minerva. I can see that.
Comes
See,
and
knowing
beats
nothing
you up
about
when you
the
don't
world,
argue.
I was going to say Volcanica, but
Hey,
fucking
Kenny
phone.
here.
Wrong one.
Wrong one, wrong one.
Yeah.
Participants, you have failed to pay back your pay your bets. Retrieve them now.
Even in another world, Natsuki Subaru cannot dodge the IRS.
if anything, every
My worst
world chip
enemy,
that compounds the interest.
Texas.
Look, unfortunately, Mr. Natsuki, we have you on, let's see, at this point, Arc 6, 27 counts of life insurance fraud. You're going to have to pay back a lot on that.
Yeah, I'm imagining how that conversation went with Otto. Ah, man, I really love being in this fantasy world. I don't have to think about doing taxes later. Oh, yeah, about that, Natsuki-kun.
You have a year and a month of unpaid paid labor taxes you have to pay back.
Mr. Notsky, you should have never left without me.
Why did you sign
I
a
had
contract with
no-
Roswell without a lawyer?
I've had nothing but time to run these numbers.
Natsuki-kun, you didn't even read the contract, not to mention the fine print.
Mr. Natsuki, do you know how high the tariffs are for these manga?
No.
Sorry.
Owie.
You know, your health insurance just says Betty, right?
And then it has like a weird cat-looking girl with a winky face drawn on it. What's going on with that?
What's going on here?
His name is Felix.
His name is
The
Felix.
real healer. All right, before we get too much carried away, would we like to get ready for the next chapter?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I
man.
hate to
we
ruin
have
the fun.
No, it does need to move along.
Okay, I'm sure we'll stop having fun. Okay.
Oh my god, I want to kill
Fine,
myself.
Okay, we're on again.
I hate
Make sure you
running
pay the
this
IRS
shit.
before you do.
I don't have the IRS. I'm fucking Canadian. Beep, 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 beep,
Hold on.
Dun,
Hold on
dun,
to your
dun, dun.
The true method of tax evasion.
Yeah, be
Canada.
Canadian. Alrighty, I sent it back as a reminder to y'all in the chat. The pinned comment has our Arc 7 auditions. If you go watch the video, gives you all the information. All the links are down below. You have till June 27th, 2025 at 3 p.m. EST, my last day of school, so we can actually sit down and do looking at auditions. You could join us in these crazy conversations.
We dare you.
We fucking dare. That's
Help!
crazy.
Please
Dare you.
send help!
Dare you?
Just so
Join us.
everyone knows, we've had over 70 auditions already and haven't even gotten ones for half the characters yet. So there's a lot of
73.
space for everyone.
You know-
73.
And 2 via email, and this was before they were public. So, do.
Too many characters.
Too many cooks.
Webback gang.
Oh, don't worry. Tomorrow there'll be at least one audition for everybody.
Yeah!
Yeah!
Threatens and delivers.
That's what we like to hear. We're going to go into the hundreds with this one, baby!
Yay!
See that next week.
Do.
It'll
Alright.
be great.
Yeah. Everyone got chapter 20 open. Al, you good to read?
Yes.
Woo. We're not too close to your leave time. If you gotta leave partway through, just like send us a message. Someone will tag you out.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Okay. All right, whenever you're ready.
Arc 6, Chapter 20. Shala not equal to the sage, equal to Flugel. The eminent great sage Flugel. As soon as Shala had mentioned his name with a proud puff of her ample chest as she gave them an open-looking smile, Subaru and the others had exchanged looks with each other, wrapped up by an uncomfortable feeling in the air.
Huh? What's up with that response? Did I say something weird?
No! It's because... What the...
Shala widened her eyes blankly upon hearing Subaru and the others' dismal response. He felt bad for her, who was the very picture of confidence, as if to say there was nothing mysterious to her words. However, the emotions that Subaru and the others harbored towards the name of that Flugel were rather complex. The great sage Flugel. Though the title she'd given him was unfortunately different, Subaru was familiar with that name. It was the name of an individual with whom he had crossed fates just once, ever since he had been summoned into this different world. However, he did not have any acquaintanceship with that individual, only a one-sided debt. In any case, the reason he knew his name was down to the fact that he had an experience in which his life had been saved thanks to that individual's deed.
Flugel's great tree. That Flugel-san, right?
Everyone except Shala gave a curt nod at the keyword that slipped out of Subaru's mouth, although Meili inclined her head in doubt as if she didn't know, saying,
What's that? I've never heard of that term before. Great tree? Does it just mean tree?
Yeah, right. There's a damn huge tree that grew on the leafless plains in the Kingdom of Lagunica, and it's called Flugel's Great Tree. It's so huge that it said that it may have almost reached past the clouds. It was something that could really tickle at your male instincts.
I see. When you say it like that, I'd very much like to see it.
Sorry. About that. I cut it down.
Oni-san's so mean.
He'd ended up swiftly shattering Meili's wish, and as a result, treated it as something less than human. Strictly speaking, cutting down the tree had not been Subaru's responsibility. However, it had been Subaru who had proposed cutting it down and using it. So when it came to talking about who was the most responsible, Subaru was the one. Flugel's great tree had ended up being his trump card a year ago in the battle to subjugate the white whale. The great tree's existence had been cardinally important in subjugating the witch beast of fog, the white whale, considering that the tree was larger in size than that colossal beast. In the end, he could see that they'd cut down the tree, pinned the white whale underneath it so it was rendered unable to move, and finally delivered a finishing blow onto it.
I do feel bad for Flugel-san, who they say planted it, but in no shape or form did I ever think I'd hear his name in a place like this.
The stump where the negotiations that followed the subjugation of the white whale took place. The spot from which it can be seen, right? I've heard that they use the chopped tree for various stuff, though.
At the present, only the stump has been left there, known as the vestiges of Flugel's great tree. It remains in a status quo where it is protected as an important historical landmark, but after several hundreds of years, it ought to go back to how it was before, wouldn't you think?
Amelia and Julius replied about what had happened after following Subaru's wonderment. Straight after the subjugation of the White Whale, they had subjugated Sloth as well, and the attack of the Sin Archbishops involving Kush and Rem had overlapped with that. And to make matters worse, straight after he had joined back up with the Amelia camp, there had been that commotion surrounding the sanctuary where they had ended up in. However, after all of these unfortunate series of events, the negotiations of the spoils of war had taken place. There, a discussion regarding the great deeds against the White Whale and Sloth had been the pied de resistance, but naturally they had also ended up discussing compensation for the damage they had incurred. One of the matters they discussed was Flugel's great tree, namely taking care of the remaining stump and effective uses of the felled tree itself. Incidentally, they had deemed the White Whale as having no practical use, so its huge carcass had been cleaved up by a bunch of people and incinerated. Only its skull had been presented to the royal capital as evidence of its subjugation. In any case, setting aside the great tree's treatment and moving back to the more crucial Flugelsan.
Come to think on it, I've definitely heard him referred to as Sage Flugel.
But he's a sage who no one really knows what he's done, in fact. So, to begin with, it's strange that he's being treated as a sage, I suppose.
When you consider his achievements alone, it is true that his accomplishments pale in comparison to the title of sage. Perhaps he liked to toot his own horn too much on his achievements. A guy just like Barasu, huh?
When have I ever exaggerated my achievements?
Subaru grew rather sullen at having received that unexpected evaluation. However, Ram's face remained nonchalant. And whilst listening to that exchange, Anastasia spoke out with an
I see.
He was the only one whose face showed some understanding.
Certainly. From what the story that circulates round says, Flugelson may be lacking for someone being called a sage. But I wonder if things ended up being like what I expected now, that Shala-san, who's been treated as a real sage, has turned out to be the person like this. What do you mean by that? The achievements that are being circulated are the opposite. Nah, I suppose that ain't right. They're weighted to one side rather than being the opposite. I reckon it may be very like that. That were more or less pushed onto her. On purpose. So, in other words, you mean that it was made to look like Shala-san did things that were actually done by Flugel-san?
Amelia opened her eyes in surprise as she heard Anastasia's hypothesis. After Anastasia nodded at her understanding, she turned around to face Shala once again.
I've got my suspicions about this, but Shala-san, what do you think? I wonder if your master was the sort to try and do these sorts of things. Shala-san? Yeah, I don't quite understand this difficult talk.
You better not be.
No, you're jumping to conclusions. Let me continue properly with what I was going to say.
Right after Subaru narrowed his eyes at her vague reply, Shala shook her head as if in fright, and then she lifted both of her palms up, and she nonsensically blinked her palms open and closed. And she said,
If I'm being honest, there's much that I don't understand about Master's thinking. But when it comes to Master, he was a person who didn't really like to stand out. So I think it's quite like Master to aim to be the brunt of the annoying gossip onto me and run away.
I don't think a person who didn't want to stand out would have planted a tree called the Flugel's Great Tree, though.
Subaru, you've got the wrong idea. It's not like Flugel's great tree was called a great tree the moment it was planted. Many months and years passed by until it finally attained its majestic appearance from its growth into full bloom. Given that the name of the person who planted it was left behind, it's not that strange that future generations began to call it like that.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Subaru's face grew sour as he comprehended Julius's explanation. Indeed, back then it would have been one of many, but after long years, it had ended up growing into a magnificent great tree. They had probably wanted to give it a name, and when they came to do so, they'd gone with the then let's just name it after the person who planted it option. That felt like what would have been natural. If that was the case, then he felt like it would have been an oversight for Flugels to have left his name behind.
If he feels like hiding, then I feel like he should have avoided leaving the name Flugel behind in the first place. Isn't there something missing here?
I read this in a book, but if I'm not mistaken, the reason why we know Flugelsson's name is because Flugel was carved onto that great tree, right?
As if there's something missing! He's like a student on a field trip!
Subaru was taken aback by this episode where it had seemed like he had craved the limelight more than expected. He recalled that he'd wanted to do something similar back when he'd been standing next to the great tree. However, when it came to him actually putting that into motion, well, that was another story. In the first place, when Flugel would have carved it in, the great tree still shouldn't have been a great tree in the first place.
The name stood alone, and thus Sage Flugel ended up being passed down in legend as an enigmatic historical figure that has next to no information about him other than having planted the tree.
So, isn't the belief that Flugel was the one who planted the tree unclear too?
With that, time passed, and it was verified as being correct from the mouth of a different sage. Now that I think about it, we are standing in a place which is chock full of missing history. Does it not make your heart leap just a little?
Don't start talking as if you're a history nerd.
Being acquainted with obscure historical facts from several centuries, Julius was deeply moved. Julius had the tendency to speak too much when explaining things regarding magic, rather than him having deep insight into it. However, perhaps he did have a knowledge nerd side to him here.
But even though I get that the Sage of Antiquity is actually Flugel in reality, that still doesn't change much, right?
When their opinions came to match each other regarding Flugel's actions, Amelia diffidently glanced over everyone's faces. Receiving her gaze, Subaru nodded his head in agreement. As Amelia had said, the fact that it hadn't actually been Flugel who had been behind the legendary exploits of the past did not hold much meaning for them at the present. No, that was not true at all.
Nope, Amelia-tan. This fact is a pretty big problem.
Huh?
I mean, shouldn't it be? Our purpose from the start was to come here to hear various things from the famed Sage-san, who's said to be omniscient. But since the Sage-san from the rumours has turned out to be a different person, and all he's left behind is this obviously airheaded girl, we...
Oh, Master! I want you to not shake my head. You're making it go clatter-clatter.
Shala gave off that reaction, full of jest as he shook her shoulders. If he put it without mincing his words, she was far off from being omniscient by any stretch of the imagination.
To start with, our original purpose can't be fulfilled. If the sage isn't here, then it means we came all the way here for nothing.
Amelia and the others kept their mouths shut at Subaru's conclusion. Subaru gritted his back teeth at his own conclusion whilst he looked at everyone's reactions. Over a month had passed, and Subaru had already died 4 times. Only a guardsman who was a sage in name only had been left behind in Pleiades' watchtower. To reach it, they had surmounted so much hardship. They would not be able to bring back any results due to this. The reality of history, the true state of the sage, those things were of no value to him, since Subaru only desired a way to save the people important to him.
Shola, this may be a long shot, but just tell me this. Your master, the one who should be the real sage, Flugel, where is he?
Right now, if I were to answer with right in front of my eyes, I get the feeling you'd get mad at me. But I gotta answer it. The one right in front of my eyes is Master Flugel.
I thought you'd say that.
Subaru could merely sigh at Shala's undiscouraged response. In fact, Subaru's current feelings were similar to that of a barren wasteland, overwhelming any urge he had in wanting to burst out in anger at the upbeat Shala. Their circumstances were such that they could say their leads had come to nothing. The glimmer of hope which had been the sage had been blinked out, and it looked like things would just go back to them fumbling around blindly. However, the subsequent darkness that had came after they had seen a dazzling glimmer once in the dark had a different weight to it. Hope gave people the strength to step forward, but perhaps the dark was when hope covered it. Oh, hope gave people the strength to step forward, but perhaps the dark when was covered, it was something that dyed people's vision in black rather than always being in the darkness. Either way, for Subaru, it meant that
Subaru, listen. It may surely be like that, but in truth, it doesn't mean that we're at an impasse.
Huh?
Amelia placed her hand on Subaru's shoulder and spoke out to him from the side of his face, which had been drooping down gloomily. Turning his face to look at her, he saw that Amelia's amethyst eyes were full of unwavering hope. Giving Subaru a short nod whilst she touched his shoulder, Amelia continued speaking, saying,
Isn't that right?
to Shala,
Although you've barely spoken anything to us a little while ago, the current you should be able to speak to us in quite a bit more detail, right? Sure thing. I just like when Master's feeling down too. But also, I was all alone for such a long time, so I'd love to chat.
Shala replied to Amelia's meaningful questioning with a genial look to her, keeping her attitude unchanged. She sat cross-legged, swaying back and forth. Then she moved her right hand up and pointed it overhead.
I said a bit of this to the others too. But we're on the bottommost floor of the tower here. This is the 6th floor, Acertope. As you go up, there's a 5th floor, Kaleno. Then there's a 4th floor, Alkaloin. And at the tippy top, there's the 1st floor, Maya.
You named each of the floors? Wasn't that a hassle?
Didn't you name them, Master?
I don't have such bad taste, but I don't want to talk about that right now. So,
There was hope in Amelia's eyes, and with the flow of Shala's conversation promoting that, Subaru's mood grew in impatience. Shala broke into a delighted smile as if she'd perceived the change in his expression. As if she'd perceived that change in his expression. Still pointing up above, she stuck out her other hand, her left hand, and showed him her 5 fingers.
The 5th floor, Kaleno, is straight above. On that floor, you'll find the doorway that leads outside. The 6th floor, Astertope, is underneath it. So in fact, it connects straight to the underground area. If you hit the wrong place, you'll end up buried alive. So it'd be best if you didn't do anything reckless, like trying to break the wall.
Incidentally, the wall and floor seem to look like they're made out of stone when you first look at them, but they have an unusual strength to them. Let me just say now that they would not be chipped even with a bit. They would not be chipped even a bit with either Amelia Sama's magic or mine own, of course.
Of course, that probably didn't mean he had tried to destroy them, but Julius nevertheless supplemented Shala's explanation. He had no intentions of destroying the tower at all, but he nodded with an
I see.
just to be safe.
So, I get that the 5th floor has the doorway. What's above that?
The 4th floor, Alcalone. Alsone is my dwelling area. A simple place for my ins and outs. I leave it messy, so I'm gonna get embarrassed if you look too hard. Master, your eyes look serious. How scary. Usually I stand watch over the sand dunes from here. And then I take fire. Then I take aim and fire at anyone who gets near the tower.
So, it indeed was you then.
He'd already half guessed it before, but he could be fully convinced now thanks to her testimony. The white light from the Pleiades watchtower that had killed Subaru twice in the sand dunes, and had also been the reason as to why their team was separated into 2 after. That culprit had been, as he had surmised, Shala.
We went through so much suffering thanks to that. How the hell do you plan to make up for that?
Sorry. I was just following Master's instructions. By saying that, you're just fussing about what I've been doing about here for the past hundreds of years.
Subaru glared at her, speaking in a harsh tone, causing Shala to quiver back, her face growing disheveled. There was no ill will showing on her face, and moreover, she showed no signs of remorse either. rather than lacking a sense of guilt, she did not seem to feel guilty in the first place. It wasn't an issue where she lacked emotions, but rather...
Baru, no matter what you say, there's no use in this, in fact. There's no sense of remorse or guilt in this one, I suppose. They just do as ordered. It doesn't make sense to ask a tool their uses, in fact.
Yep. Master's tool. Little ankle biter says it well.
Shala had a big smile which said, "That's exactly what I thought," all over her face as she heard Beatrice's savage opinion. Her moods and facial expressions changed thickly, and with that, his understanding of her current way of being. Perhaps Shala just had different values. That was probably why they had seemed to keep conversing as if they were on different wavelengths. In other words...
It's getting real tiring talking with you.
You used to say that all the time before. It's been ages.
Is that so? You know, I used to be told that all the time. Donkey years ago.
He felt like he still did now, but Subaru brushed aside that point. In any case, he understood that the white light that had come from the watchtower had been Shala's doing, as well as that he'd never get any kind of apology or remorse from her. In that case, there was no meaning in cutting their conversation short. He'd just have to move the conversation forward.
About the fourth floor, your dwelling area, like your living quarters, what's above that?
On the third floor, Tegida. There's the examination hall. To test one's rights to enter the library.
The library?
Subaru frowned, repeating the word back to her as a question. Shala calmly nodded back at him, saying,
Yeah.
Without paying heed to Subaru's change in attitude.
The library. From the third floor, Tegida, and up. There's examinations and each one has a corresponding library. If you fulfill the conditions to enter the library, then you can read the books inside at your leisure.
What's written in those books inside?
It was frustrating that she'd finished with an considering that she'd told him this much whilst assuming an air of importance. Shala reluctantly shook her head along with her hair at the frowning Subaru and said,
It's because I can't read the books and stuff. I've not been told to more than to guard the tower.
Was that from your master? From Flugel as well?
Yeah.
It would be impossible for Subaru to answer, regardless of how she had put it so proudly. Though Subaru had only inclined his head in doubt at Shala's words, Amelia and the others still kept serious looks on their faces. The hope present in their eyes was still there.
Bro, what lies inside the books of the library is knowledge, I suppose.
By knowledge, you don't mean it in a literal sense, right?
Subaru asked the obvious back after hearing Beatrice's expression. Typically, what was written down in books was knowledge, barring fiction, of course. What one would get out of books was either a wealth of knowledge or deep, moving impressions. But that probably wasn't the meaning behind what Beatrice was trying to say. Beatrice shook her head on top of Subaru's lap. Her long drill curves traced her head's movement, and she spoke out to Subaru, who was following that motion with his eyes.
This place where the knowledge written down by the sage, known as being omniscient, sleeps. And Pleiades Watchtower seems to be the name used in the outside, in fact.
Yeah. Since Master came back inside, the tower will go back to its original role. A great library where you can search for anything you'd like, be it something you want to know or something to be aware of. You could do that in Pleiades.
So, that means the third floor is at a beginner level, the second floor is at an intermediate level, and you can get access to the top class information on the first floor, I think. So, it must mean that the examinations are qualification examinations to obtain clearance, right?
Oh, as expected of Master. Even I keep getting more and more confused with what you're talking about. But perhaps it's Yoi that you can keep it simple.
A great library Pleiades. The name of the watchtower had gone from something quite affable to something quite suspicious. Subaru and the others, line astern, had left the 6th floor and had begun climbing the stairs up to the upper floors. The spiral staircase carried Subaru and the others up to the floors above, coiling around circularly within the tower. However, since there was no manner of railing, the higher he got, the more his blood ran cold.
Oh, this is scary.
Subaru, if you're scared, then hold my hand. Since you still haven't fully recovered, and if you're unsteady on your feet, you actually might fall off.
The ground of the 6th floor was getting far in the distance, and Gian, along with the dragon carriage, looked pretty small down there. Amelia called out to Subaru, who had looked down below holding his breath. To tell the truth, he had wanted to take her hand and enjoy the feeling of her pale fingers, but...
Thanks, Amelia-san. But I'm alright right now. For the time being, it doesn't seem like I'll fall off since the stairs are fairly wide. That, and I'm also full of vim and vigour. Don't you think?
Really? But if you think it's getting tough, you'll tell me straight away, right? I can carry you on my back if it comes down to it.
Is that so? Then I won't make it come down to that.
The impression of being carried up on the stairs on Amelia's back was, as expected, too horrifying. He would rather make that loan out to Julius were he to make such an unmanly move.
Is something matter?
That'd just be the worst way too, though. Oh, it's nothing in particular. Keep moving! Keep moving!
Noticing Julius's eyes on him, who had just turned his head around, Subaru shook his hand at him. He shrugged his shoulders and continued to lead them up the stairs, still holding Anastasia's hand. Right now, they had their eyes set on the upper floors of the tower, progressing on foot. They were in no rush, so they went about it at a leisurely pace, which contrasted their feelings of apprehension. Julius and Anastasia were at the front. Then after them came Ram and Amelia, lying astern, with Subaru and Beatrice walking behind them. And finally, Shala and Meili were bringing up the rear.
Wow there, naked Oni-sama! Don't you shake about so much.
Huh? You sure are a bossy little ankle biter for someone who's riding on my shoulders.
Because I'm sleepy. We've been walking for ages, and I can't make it up and down these stairs, which is how many stairs there are.
Yes, but why do I have to carry you? Quit pulling my hair.
Fussy as she may be, there was no sharpness in their exchange. The Shala and Meili group bringing up the rear was rather incredibly such that Shala was carrying Meili on her shoulders as they climbed up the stairs. Initially, when they decided to move up, Meili had taken the opportunity to complain that their feet were tired. However, it had been Shala herself who said that she would be okay with carrying her on her back, so he had left it down to her.
When it comes to actual physical strength, it looks like Shala is likely the strongest.
And that's for sure, I suppose. Subaru, don't let your guard down, in fact. Despite her appearance, we don't know when she'll show her fangs, I suppose.
This woman? You get that impression from her?
We don't know how she will react if it comes to light that you're not Flugel, in fact.
That's...
Subaru ended up stammering his words as he heard Beatrice's response, her having urged him caution in a low voice. It was not that the thought had not passed through his mind, but he did not believe that leaving it at the edge of his thoughts would be a problem. In fact, Shala was acting pretty friendly toward his group. No, towards Subaru, and that was only because she kept mistaking him as her master. And Subaru and the rest knew that her relation with him was something she was completely misunderstanding. He had denied it to her many times till now, but Shala would just smile and disregard it. Actually, rather than disregarding it, it was more like she did not care at all, no matter how many times she heard it. But, in any case, it had not gotten through to her. Therefore, Shala's attitude had not changed, and he could even consider it a security.
That means that we won't know what will bring everything crumbling down.
There's no doubt that things will end up quite worrisome if she were to become hostile, I suppose. We'd have no choice but to combine mine and your strength, as well as Amelia and that knight's. Julius's, in fact.
Shawla's strength. Huh.
He took a quick glance back at Shawla messing about with Melee. She had a friendly and defenseless look to her improper appearance. Ever since their first encounter, on their way to the conversations afterwards, she had been an individual that had been difficult to judge in every manner. However, although Subaru could not currently decide what attitude to hold against Shawla, no harbored animosity stood out in her. That much was what it looked like. Although she was acting friendly towards them because she was mistaking him for someone else, and although they had met with such an unregarded reception for her, it was more difficult to dislike her than be bewildered by her. However, he must not confuse such touchy-feely emotions with there being a lack of looming danger. Turning his eyes at their defenseless limbs while sneaking glances at Shawla's condition, Subaru broke into thought. She had confessed that it had been her who had set her aim on Subaru and the others back at the sand dunes, having thrown those flashes of light at them from the tower. The speed of those flashes of light, along with the accuracy of their aim, had been unnatural. It had been plenty enough to give him an inkling of the levels of Shawla's true strength. Right now, Subaru did not know whether those things had been magic or not. And to add on top of that, there had been those final moments back at the underground area of the sand dunes. That which had remained in his awfully turbid consciousness just before he lost it must have been Shawla who had come to blows with that repulsive-looking centaur. That monster was one which could only be thought of as either being the embodiment of absurdity or outrageousness, and was abruptly torn to pieces by a more powerful force. And he witnessed it being blown away out of existence with his own eyes. He did not want to admit it, but if he ended up in direct combat with Shawla, any visions of being able to win against her were all but gone. Regulus, Petalgeese, and such had been far easier opponents.
I don't know why I'm starting to feel pretty repulsed whenever I recall those guys. No, feeling that is perfectly reasonable, but it's a familiar repulsed feeling that I'm getting.
I don't know what you're thinking, but we need to be careful, I suppose.
Yeah, if that's the case, then I guess asking her is quicker.
Straight after Beatrice replied in confusion, Subaru turned both himself and her around at the same time. While swiveling his feet around down the stairs so they faced back, Subaru faced towards straight... Ugh. While swiveling his feet around on the stairs so they faced back, Subaru faced straight towards the double-stacked Shawla and Melee. Shawla stopped in her tracks and tilted her head.
What's up, Master? It couldn't be that Master's also tired, right? It wouldn't be an issue for me to carry you. But my back's already taken by this girl who acts like a little princess, you know?
That in itself would make quite an impression, so I'll pass. No. I'm sorry to get in between you happily playing with your ponytail with Melee.
It's not a ponytail. It's a scorpion tail. It's a scorpion tail.
Shawla repeated herself to the taciturn Subaru as if she were a broken record. Grabbing a hold of one of her ponytail's tufts, Shawla readily moved in front of her face and said,
A scorpion tail.
I understand! What's up with this insistence? Anyways, I'm sorry to get in between you making friends with Melee, but there's something I want to ask you.
If it's something Master has to say, I will listen to anything. I'm glad that you're speaking to me like this, Master.
Shawla swung her ponytail, or rather, her scorpion tail, about delightly. As a result of that, Melee, who was on her shoulders, was hit by one of the tail's swishes. Subaru had already experienced that unexpectedly soft, good-feeling tail, but putting that aside...
You'll listen to what I say, right?
Not lewd stuff, right?
Don't even start going there. What are you? Brain dead?
It's pretty dumb of Master to say so, isn't it? Now we're even.
Subaru was left floored as he was incapable of keeping up pace with Shawla, who'd had a comeback to spare. Usually, most people ended up getting quite thrown out of sync when mixed in the pace with Subaru's conversations. Because of that, suitably finding a thread to start a conversation came down to Subaru, but it would be tough to do this time. The difficulty in this sort of line of approach was also different compared to aberrations like the Sin Archbishops. In their case, it would be difficult to establish a conversation with them to start with, but it was different in Shala's case. He felt a delay proportionate to not understanding his opponent whatsoever, while she understood him. Truly, as if Flugel, Subaru, and God knows who else had a lot of points in common.
Anyways, I have a question and a request. I need you to answer them as honestly and obediently as possible.
That doesn't seem like a request. They could be in order, though.
I ain't that bossy. So, about the question. You attacked us from the tower, right? What the hell was that?
It was Jigoku no Sugoki. A sniping attack used so that pesky flies don't get near the tower.
What?
Jigoku no Sugeki.
With her having said it in English whilst beaming, Subaru's face grew sullen. Well, it was a name he could understand.
Though, if I think about it now, I was just so glad that Jigoku no Sugeki didn't hit Master. If Jikumon had been lifted, I would have flung blow after blow until they struck Master.
Wait! There's too much new vocab! Jiku?
Jikumon. It's a trick to prevent people from reaching the tower.
From Shala's way of talking, Subaru grasped that this Jikumon and whatever else had cut off their path from the flower meadow thanks to the sand time, but even so, the spatial distortion had been lifted by the effects of EMT in the end.
But thanks to that, I knew that Master was actually Master, so everything turned out all right in the end. If Master had been struck, Master would have definitely been mad at me, wouldn't he?
Uh-huh. Yeah, probably. I hope you'd get away with me just being mad at you.
In actual fact, he had been struck twice, and he had died twice, so he was worried about whether he could even get up to those anger levels. It was rare for his anger to not spike up rapidly upon meeting the culprits who had murdered him. Part of the reason why it hadn't just now was because he understood that it had been some kind of accident, and that it was pointless to even pursue Shala's responsibility.
But if he managed to strike him, Oni-san would have ended up dead, wouldn't he? If that happened, then I don't think we'd be talking about getting mad or not here.
Perched on Shala's back, Meili interjected into the conversation in place of Subaru, who was half embroiled in his forgiveness. Upon hearing her words, Shala let out a fit of rather unladylike, uncontrollable laughter.
Sorry. I lost my spot. Found it. That was a real laugh. Sorry, I got lost. What are you saying, little ankle biter? There's no way my Master would die from something like that. Because from the start, Master's always been someone who can never tell whether he's dead or not dead.
But Sandworm-chan got hit so much, and he ended up dying, so...
I don't really give a damn about stuff like earthworms or bears, you know? My Master wouldn't die, and that is what's important. If he had died, then it just means he's not my Master.
Smiling absent-mindedly, Shala gazed at Subaru with delighted-looking eyes. Subaru's spine shivered when she turned her innocent, smiling face towards him. Innocence like that of a child's, and faith tantamount to defenselessness. That which she put into Flugel was an ideal that she had likely rigidly built up at her core more than she had dared to imagine. In accordance with Beatrice's worries, if there ever came a time where she'd come to disagreement with the current Subaru, then...
I apologize that I was late in picking you up from the Sand Palace afterwards. Whilst I let the other group into the tower, Master and the rest of him ended up advancing into its depths. So I was all in a fluster.
No, it's fine. Wait, you said Sand Palace?
Indeed. It's really dangerous over there, so it's better you don't go into it. It's reckless to approach it knowing I have all the keys, even if it's you, Master. There are hungry horse kings prowling about there, too.
Hungry horse kings? You mean those horse-like monsters?
Sand Palace, keys, hungry horse kings. There were a lot of words weighing on his mind, but his mind wandered to the last of them, the hungry horse kings. Perhaps it referred to that centaur. Shala nodded at his question.
Those things weren't here around the time Master was here, so I thought you'd be surprised. In essence, they just prowl about inside the Sand Palace. So you won't come across them unless you go there. But once in a while, one of those guys will venture outside, so I go and destroy it without any mercy.
Oh, there are a lot of them?
There's tons and tons.
Subaru felt truly revulsed from the bottom of his heart, hearing Shala confirm that without any hesitation. The fighting strength of the centaur, or rather, the hungry horse king, and of course its appearance and ecology were all things which brought feelings of indescribable unpleasantness. He had hoped that there would have just been one specimen of them if possible, but it did not look like that was the case. She conveyed that to him using the expression tons and tons.
Hungry Horse King? I'm not familiar with that name. I'd like to see one, maybe.
Stop it! That's not something a kid needs to see.
Oni-san.
With her having voiced those rash words, Subaru gave Meili a very stern warning. Maybe those words had tugged onto Meili's heartstrings, her being something like a witch beast collector, but he wouldn't recommend her trying to get in contact with him to fill a picture book. Shala nodded in agreement at Subaru's words.
I think it's best not to. The Hungry Horse Kings are a witch beast with the concept that their horns can regenerate over and over again. So you can't make arrangements with them like other witch beasts. Kill all enemies on sight. This is their justice.
Blech. I understand.
Pouting with a gesture appropriate of her age, Meili retraced her curiosity. Whilst feeling relieved by that situation, Shala once again spoke out to Subaru, saying,
So, Master, was that all you wanted to talk about?
For now, that's... no. Wait, that's not all.
With her head still inclined, Shala prepared to receive his question with a bring it on attitude. Considering that she had opened up her heart to them now, it was quite insincere of him to continue keeping his guard up. But sometimes, no matter how painful it was, to steal one's heart was necessary. If he could change something by saying just one thing in preparation for the future, then doing so would be fortuitous.
Shala, this is my request. Don't cause me or my companions any harm. Your master's order was to attack anyone who approached the tower. So, I would think, since we're inside, we are not covered by that. So there's no need for you to attack us anymore. Don't cause us any harm. Absolutely none.
Shala narrowed her eyes at Subaru, who had repeated his words once more to make absolutely sure. As he gazed towards her narrowed eyes, he saw that their color was of a deep green hue. Shala, whose expression had been pretty much all smiles since they came across her, had stopped smiling as if she were in deep thought for the first time. For a while, there was silence. Subaru, who had been holding his breath due to this strange tension, let it out, unable to stand it any longer. Then...
Yoshi! I've memorized it word for word as a new command from Master. Master?
Immediately after she decided to accept it, Shala's features changed, turning her back into frivolousness. Shala brought her face super close to Subaru's, whose eyes had widened without following her sudden change in attitude. Their eyes stared at each other as at point-blank range, but he could not find any deception or dishonesty in her green eyes, at least as far as Subaru could see.
Is it okay with you?
I have no choice. It's what Master has said. It's not particularly hard. Non-violent, non-obedience.
Since you're going to follow the order, don't you mean that you'll obey?
Even if you could do as you please with my body, I wouldn't let you snatch away my heart.
What a pain in the arse you are!
He prodded Shala in the forehead, whose face had tensed up, so to make her take a step back. Shala fell back, letting out an
Ah!
causing Meili to panic on her back, even though she was safe. In any case, Subaru's request somehow looked like it had been readily accepted. It was unclear how effective it was going to be, but at least...
Like, as long as I don't let her down, the promise should be kept.
If that's the only requirement, then things will be fine, in fact. Subaru expects to let her down, but he won't, I suppose.
I'm really grateful for being held to that high esteem. But, in this case, isn't that part of your expectation where you think I won't let her down far too optimistic? What would Flugel do? Should I grow wings? Sounds like he's a German.
On that topic, to Subaru, it felt like Flugel was a German word that meant wings. He had never expected that he'd be pulling stuff from out there, but that was suspicious as well. At any rate, this Flugel, altogether with Shaw's name, smelled fishy as hell.
Oh, that's right. Shawla, I've got just one last question to ask you.
What is it?
Shawla's cheeks were getting pinched by Melee, her face looking completely vapid. With his back still turned to Shawla, Subaru spoke with a casual gesture.
Maya, Electra, Taijetta, Akalone, Kaleno, Astarope.
Subaru?
Beatrice, who was beside Subaru, had a puzzled look on her face as she heard Subaru reciting those words out. They were just a string of words which to hold no meaning when only hearing their sounds. Of course, they had heard just about 4 of those words a while ago, but they weren't words which would be so easy to remember as to recite them from memory, given that they were unfamiliar words.
All of those, in order from top to bottom, are this Pleiades Watchtower's, this Great Library Pleiades' floor names, right?
Correct!
So, where's Merope?
Paula once again kept her silence upon hearing Subaru's question. However, this silence was different to the one before. It was a silence of surprise, like she had been caught completely unaware. The sound of her breath being taken away could faintly be heard. Subaru deemed that he had managed to touch on the truth.
Subaru, what did you ask her, in fact? What does Merope mean, I suppose?
It's the name of the last one of the 7 sisters. It'd be strange not to have 7 in Pleiades.
Floors had been allocated 6 names from the first floor to the 6th. However, the names that followed that motif were from the start the 7 sisters. A floor with the 7th name attached to it should exist.
If it's not the 7th floor, then I guess it would be a Zereth floor?
There's a Zareth floor. Master named them, so it's natural. However, the place was made after Master left, so you should know where it is.
Bala replied to Subaru's guesswork with a hoarse voice. Subaru felt Beatrice beside him startled and surprised, but he licked his parched lips and narrowed his eyes. He felt no sense of achievement in having found something hidden. After all, it was because it was not something hidden for Subaru.
If the first floor is the highest floor, then the Zereth floor must be the super highest floor. In regards to entering it...
No.
Bala quickly interrupted Subaru's words, who was just about to ask her how to enter it. Feeling the strength in her tone of voice, Subaru took a quick glimpse at her. When he did, he saw that Shawla's facial expression had not changed. She was still smiling with a look of honesty about her. However, there was a faint look of loneliness plastered around her eyes.
You haven't fulfilled the conditions yet. Master came back to see me in the middle of his journey, and I'm satisfied with that. That's why the Zereth floor is a no.
Though her tone of voice still had not changed, it instead felt like a firm wall to the point it felt queer. The promise that they had exchanged a few minutes ago and the pervading danger that was quite capable of shaking him even at his core strongly appealed to him the sense of danger that was drifting off her. Thus, Subaru gave up on inquiring her further about this place.
Gotcha. I won't speak such nonsense anymore. We'll just keep to our earlier promise.
Roger that. I shall keep it. I shall super keep it.
Bala broke into a broad smile, in high spirits as if she'd forgotten their current exchange. Subaru let out a deep sigh as he listened to her upbeat voice from behind him.
Subaru, if it gets too much, you'll say so, right?
It's alright. Just so much stuff is on my mind.
He gave a weak smile as he heard Beatrice's words of worry before then affectionately patting her head. Beatrice couldn't say anything after he did so, but this was also a right for Subaru to settle himself down. Flugel's abnormal status had become apparent in his conversation with Shala. It was no big deal. He, too, was the same as Subaru. Subaru, Al, Hoshin, and Flugel. A person who had craved the limelight and had brought knowledge that should not exist in this world and had ostentatiously left it behind. He had no more doubt. Flugel was a person from the same place as him.
Centuries ago. Huh?
After reflecting on that for a long, long time, Subaru violently scratched his head. What had he felt in this different world? What had he thought? What had he aimed for? What had he sought for? What had this man, who had seemed to renounce the name Sage and planted the tree desired? Whilst he thought about those kinds of things, he wondered whether he still lived on in this world. Then, coming from Subaru's back was...
Master?
Shala called out to him casually. Without stopping in his tracks, Subaru just turned his face around to glance at her. Shala looked up at Subaru, looking a bit bashful. Her expression was adorned by a truly delightful-looking smile.
Welcome home again, Master. This Shala has been awaiting the great Sage Flugel's return with all her heart.
Woo!
Yay!
Dun,
dun, dun,
Dun,
dun.
dun.
It was that one wall of text that I was just like, okay, surely I get a break now. And then it just kept on going.
Nope, just goes.
Don't
It was
stop
like,
talking.
get back to
Don't
the
stop
dialogue.
talking.
I was like, there's dialogue, and then the dialogue was just dash, and I went, oh no. And I scrolled down, it just keeps on going.
There's no breaks. There's no breaks. Oh God.
I love how Julius and Anastasia are here, and yet they barely say anything, despite Julius being the
they're just
history nerd, and Anastasia being the, one who's greedy for money and knowledge that she can sell off.
I like that the majority of this chapter, it's just them walking up the stairs. They're having this conversation as they're going just up the stairs.
Yeah.
The entirety of the chapter takes place on one location. Stairs.
Stairs. Stairs on stairs on stairs.
Can you imagine watching the anime scene for this? It's just like 3 minutes of them walking up the stairs and chatting.
Yeah, with just like a cycling
like a
background animation of
Yeah.
the wall going behind them. You get like Mario's infinite
They could
staircase
save
music
a
to go
little
in the
bit of money
background.
by like zooming way out. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
look, a
Bro.
little.
This is why
probably
season
have,
4
like-
is done.
Yeah.
They probably have something going on, like Melee playing with Shala's pony, the scorpion
Scorpion
tail.
tail.
Scorpion tail.
Yeah, my
Scorpion
bad.
tail. Get
It's
it
a
right.
scorpion tail.
Cafe really is just not hiding that at all, is he? Like,
No,
there's been
no.
so many hints and references for it.
It's just so. It's
Hey
blatant.
guys, did you know that she's part scorpion? Hey, guess what? Scorpion.
Don't make her
Scorpion.
whip out her fangs, Miss the Stinger. Sure is weird that you can smell me, huh? Strange.
Strange.
I'm imagining having like a podcast back around when Arc 6 was releasing. Guys, Shala might be a scorpion. Oh my god.
Every chapter.
That's
I
crazy.
think it's almost confirmed. I think it's super confirmed. No, I think it's confirmed now.
Nah.
She might be a
I can't
We'd be
believe
wrong in
Shala's
that we would be
relevant.
guessing. Yeah, we'd be wrong in that we'd be guessing that she would probably be like Garfield and Frederica are, and that she can turn into one rather than any of the actual truth that I won't necessarily say here.
True.
No. We would back then. It would be theorizing so hard that we go, no, maybe she's actually a pony. She doesn't want to be a ponytail.
She has a star name. She's Pride. We got it. We solved it,
Yo,
guys.
guys, we found it! We found Stride for Lakia!
Viva Valakia!
Viva la la yeah.
No.
That's crazy.
It's
The amount of shit that just dropped.
it's quite disturbing how messed up Shawla's master seems to be, eh? Like
he's a
Subaru
dick.
keeps getting like red flags.
Weird dude, eh?
Yeah, he is.
And he's getting genuinely offended whenever she calls him the same person, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, clearly the same person."
Look, I'm just saying, my theory before was a joke. It might be true.
Is it
what
true?
if-
Tune
what
in
if
next
that's where he
time and
was?
maybe find out.
It's so funny to me that he's also just like, man, me and our Japanese, but man, this Flugel guy, German, really?
Who could have seen that coming? That's weird, yo.
Like, he's questioning everyone's names, and he doesn't even question fucking Al's name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
so
Al,
funny.
I guess, yeah.
Has he
Outer.
never questioned this yet?
Well, it's just strange because even though it's a star name, Aldebaran is not a Japanese name in any regard
Japanese.
whatsoever.
I don't know if Subaru has heard Aldebaran.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Has he ever
No,
heard?
he has.
Mhm.
Well,
Priscilla
in the
said that
anime,
so
he
rude.
did, but I
Oh,
don't know if that
true,
was
true,
if he
true.
was in the room during that in that light novel.
I believe he was as well. Yeah.
Was he? Was he in the room?
When
When
Priscilla calls him Aldebaran,
yes,
Yeah.
and takes him out and makes him take him outside. She does that in the novels too.
So he does. Huh.
I mean, to give
What
him
was my
credit,
thoughts thinking about it?
he just got his face kicked in by Priscilla and
Yeah.
had his like third appeal denied. He's not
He
really
also had
focused
like
on.
3 different fucking things to worry about at the time, so I won't blame him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and that happened
it's
before
just
the
funny.
time skip.
Mhm.
Yeah, he probably thought about it during the time skip, just going like, "Huh, you know what's funny?"
Well, he wasn't
whatever,
even-
I haven't started him too.
I don't think he was focused on the star names being a thing until Arc 5 either, where
Yeah,
it came to like,
yeah.
oh,
He probably
Regulus.
just thought it was a handy
Hmm.
coincidence.
Yeah, like he's named Subaru. It's not that strange.
He's like,
Like, you're
oh,
just like
like
me, bro.
other
Hey!"
parents are into stars too. He probably was also like just quite happy that he had someone not only was from his world but was also a star name too.
Yeah, so far he only met Betelgeuse, which is intentionally
Yeah.
misspelled and mispronounced.
Yeah.
Misspelled Betelgeuse.
So Aldebaran's the first star name he actually probably hears there.
But yeah,
Intriguing.
Suspicious.
it's
Sus.
very interesting. Flugel seems like a bit of a dick. Won't lie.
No, he's. You told me to wait here for 400 years, so I did.
That wasn't me.
Oh, you can use my body anytime you like. What the fuck?
Had me waiting in the tower. Wasn't me.
9, it's not what I meant.
It's like Sean's like, you had me waiting in the tower for 400 years, and then Subaru just like slowly turns his head towards Beatrice. It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's so sad that Flugel didn't get to fulfill his true German dream of making the Autobahn across all of the ReZero world.
Yeah. Oh.
There
Truly
was
would
a
have
royal
changed the face
family
of
with blonde
trade.
hair.
Oh my god.
That'd be really funny. That'd be.
It would.
Oh, do you,
it
you
would
know
be
how many
so out of
tolls
left
the
pocket.
Hoshin Company would put on that road?
The tolls.
No, the toll road. No.
I've just realised, especially with how every single country in this world is, for the most part, has a pretty adversarial relationship with each other. Trade must be so fucking stressful cross-border. Oh my god.
I think that's why Anastasia's been successful, is because she's been the first one to pull
She's
it
been
off.
the first one to really pull that off, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, today I will go trade with Wallachia.
They're really
Well-
nice guys, okay? I mean, and the Gustekans too, they're very welcoming. So.
Yeah, no, don't trade there.
If it was real life, Wallachia with their permanent temperate climate that never gets too hot or too cold, and being able to farm and produce agriculture year round would be so beyond the richest country that this place
Yeah.
had ever seen. It's not even funny.
Oh,
they would
yeah.
have all the money.
Yeah.
There's a reason the country is the way it is, because it needs the nerf.
It's like an inherent nerf to the nation that you get to start off with, like in Civ 6.
Oh, yeah. Starts in the best
Starting
tiles, but as a
with-
penalty to farms.
Yeah.
Farms actually give you -1 food.
Hmm.
It's
Often prone to
literally
civil
like
war.
draining resources trying to farm.
I mean, it
Exactly.
it does in some way explain like the overall climate of the place, that like being able to farm year round and being like a very bountiful place, that things kind of change direction culturally.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just a small bit.
It's just so funny to me.
Pick.
Valaki is like this fucking like fertile agricultural paradise, and then Guisteco is like the shittiest place ever to live.
We are half Russia, half volcano.
Yep.
All death.
Yeah, imagine getting Isekai into ReZero, and not only are you 1 in ReZero, so it's horrible, but 2, you're in Gusteco.
Filthy
And you have black hair.
Oh, and you have black hair.
Gusteco's #1 export, and I'm not even joking about this right now, is serial killers.
Yep.
I
Nah, at that
mean,
point, you
they
just
are
have the
causing
worst
blood.
luck.
Why do you think it's their biggest their outgoing product? Did I input export? That was the word. I couldn't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Export.
Hearing the floor names was fine. I think we gotta iron out how we pronounce the floor names
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
Because it's Greek and Greek can be weird.
Hmm.
Yeah. Goofy ass Greek.
It's
name.
also weird with a British accent, I won't lie.
Yeah.
It's like so
That's an
close,
inherent
but
debuff.
It's like whenever
Like-
someone's like aluminum, and I'm like, yeah, aluminium.
No, not that.
No.
Aluminium. Just because you spell it wrong over here doesn't mean that it's right.
It's like getting
okay, I'm
confused
always
on how color and color are
Where's my
spelled.
Look, the U was lonely, and they just felt the need to pop it into places.
The
U is
vast
the always
majority,
emotional support vowel.
the vast majority of the differences between English versus American terms, like color versus color, or a lot of things like that, come down to America was doing it the way that they had always done it. Some fancy British guy decided to say a new word, and it caught on in England and nowhere else. That's
We
the
invented the
majority of
language
every
so we
single
can change it
instance.
as much as we want.
Ah, yeah.
We have the original accent.
I made it the fuck up.
Yeah, I just crammed a whole bunch of languages together and called it a day.
Pretty much.
It's been working
It's
up
like
until this point, I promise. You just have to
word
kick it
salad.
to make it work every now and then.
Let's add spelling. That'll work. No other language does that.
It's kind of funny how like you're like, oh yeah, English, and then any person that English isn't their first language fucking hates learning it. Like, oh my
Yeah.
god, this language makes no fucking sense.
Because it borrows from so many places, as so many contradictory rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like saying that you're close to a door and then that you closed the door.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
Those two were going to the movies too.
what do you mean? Two.
But I had to go to the story.
Yep.
Disappointed.
All right. Just a reminder for anyone who's come in as well, either the later parts of the last chapter, or now that we're done. Our Arc 7 auditions are up. We've already gotten one more in since we started the stream, so like take your chances. There's so many roles for you all available. Like,
Oh god.
Please.
we're really excited for them.
I beg you.
Make them
you
have
never
to review
know.
1,000. Let's hit 1,000,
Do
guys.
it.
Do it.
Yeah. Do that.
Make them
Auditions
decide
beyond
between 1,000 picks.
100,000.
Do it.
Do it now.
Do it now.
Get to the
This is
audition.
how I get revenge upon being slammed into the basement.
Why do you think you're down there?
It's like I can't
get-
escape, but you will feel my rage.
You give us so much work, it
Yeah.
means you have to stay down there. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I'm down here, might as well make myself prolonged be in here.
Make yourself
You are not
indispensable.
allowed
They
to
can never
leave
fire
until your
you.
Todd is perfect.
Oh God.
Oh God, that's not even gonna happen within 2 months, dude. I swear to God.
Flugel demands perfection.
Und ja.
Ja.
Oh my God.
All right, we're losing the plot a little bit. It might be time
We've
to call
lost
it for
it.
tonight.
It might be time to go.
Even though we
Well,
just reached peak viewership for the whole stream.
Of course.
That's
Well,
the way it is.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight and watching and reading along with us. I hope you all have a wonderful evening or day, wherever you are, and we'll catch you on Saturday for Chapter 21 and 22.
Hi.
Ah.
Sayonara.